The people engagement partner from OVO is going to give us a little look inside what they've been up to with their intranet. Please welcome Rowena Wilcox.
Thank you so much. I feel like I'm living my COVID dream with a podium. Hopefully it won't change halfway through. So I'm Rowena then. I work for OVO, the energy company. And you'll hear me speaking a lot about a kitchen table. It's not a real one. It is our digital one. So it's called the kitchen table, and it's exactly the same concept as a real one. It's a place where you come, you connect with people, you can talk about your day, you learn from each other, get inspired by each other. That's the reason behind the name. We didn't just pick a random one. Yes, that's the kitchen table then. Let me go through the slides there. Yeah, okay, so as I said then, a place to connect, a place to get stuck in. So this is the hub of OVO. It is exactly like your own kitchen table, whereas that may be the hub of your home. This is the hub of our workplace, and absolutely the pivotal point in our internal communication strategy, where we talk about our values, we make sure that everyone is connected to our vision and you're inspired. Hopefully it's not a place where it's forced. We don't do any forced fun or anything. This is somewhere that you want to be. And it works perfectly because we have a home, hub and field working model. And so home, people who work from home full-time. Hub, so we have 3 offices. There's one in Bristol, there's one in London, and there's a new one in Glasgow. So if you work within a certain radius, then that's where your base is. And then field, so we've got engineers out on the field. As I said, we're an energy company, so going in and out of people's homes. So it's really difficult to actually find a communications platform for all 3 without having 3 different ones. And actually, until we made this kitchen table back in 2021, right in the heart of COVID, we had 5 intranets. So, yeah, I know, with one team running them all. Well, actually, 2 teams running them all, I lie. This was our solution. So, again, the name was very much bringing everyone together. So, OVO acquired a different energy company in 2020. So, this really was the beginning of OVO as we are now, bringing together different workforces. As I said, people who work in the field. Really, absolutely our place to connect. And in terms of the strategy, as you can imagine, we're bringing 2 different companies together. Values weren't the same. Nothing was the same. None of our policies were the same. So this really was the homepage and the starting point, as I said, of our culture as we know it. And what we have found for the kitchen table, so as you can imagine, there's a lot of information on there. I don't know whether you all have intranets, maybe some use a mix of things, but ours is the hub of information. When we first created the platform, it was in the middle of COVID. We thought that it was going to be absolutely just for news. We fought against having all of our policies on there because we just knew that was going to be a nightmare to update all the time. Bit like a car, as soon as it's gone from the forecourt, it's already out of date, and we knew the kitchen table was going to be exactly the same. As soon as we published something, it was going to be out of date. But actually, it is the static content that brings the people to the kitchen table, which was very surprising for us, and we've done a bit of a deep dive into that. And it's the hub of information, and it is where people come to connect to everything that we do. So it shows all of our values, as I said, and we also use, so there's other than the localised news, you've got the ability to localise pages and hubs. So we've actually got a people leader community. And I know in one of the talks yesterday we mentioned about people leaders being quite a difficult audience to crack. So we are actually in the middle of launching a people leader hub. So it's everything that you would need to know as a people leader. I mean, some of it is a storefront in the sense of it may link to Workday or other platforms, but this should be the place where you go, and it is the hook to get people coming back to it, really. So as I said, whereas we thought it was going to be the news, obviously the news is important. It's actually the static content that people like, and maybe not surprisingly to you, but it was very surprising to us. So we won't count the homepage. The first most visited page is the main newsfeed, and then the second one is the free lunch Monday menu. So that was actually a surprise, but then when we stopped laughing about it, we actually realised that is what's important to people. So yes, so that is, as I said, a very important part, and that is the bit that we focus on, making sure that is up to date, because that's where people go. It is the source of truth. Everything that we do, all of our channels come back to the kitchen table. So whereas we've said about a kitchen table being the hub of your home, this really is the hub of our company, the hub of our internal communication strategy. We send, as I'll speak about in a moment, we send out emails. We've got other form of communications, but the kitchen table is always the place to come for the full read. So that is the bit, it's our authentic, you come here for the truth. You don't have to listen to your colleagues with whispers here, there and everywhere. This is the place to come for the truth. So a big part of our company is something called Plan Zero. So it is our response to the climate crisis. I'm not here to talk about that, don't worry. But this is it's a huge part of our strategy. So it's broken down into 3 pillars for us. So that is people, customers, and the planet. As I said, huge part of everything that we do. So again, it feels like the kitchen table is the right place for it. So in terms of our people, we've got people off a hub. From the talk just earlier about people shouldn't ask for help, we make sure that everything we do from a wellbeing perspective, right through to development, is on there for you. I mean, yes, we've got an absolutely great culture. We're very, very lucky where you can ask for help if you wanted it. You'd always know where to go. But if you almost want to self-serve, then there's the People Hub, as I said, on the kitchen table, right down to how do I book an eye test? Can I take an hour off in the day to take my dog for a walk with flexible working? It covers everything there. And for customers, that's another hub that we have. It isn't just a hub of hubs, I promise, although that does actually work. So for our customers, we've got a closer to the customer. So it's for all of our people to know what we are doing right now. And I think there's a myth, I'm not sure, obviously everyone's here from different industries, that customers, so the actual frontline people, so maybe telephony-based people, or in our case the engineers going into people's houses, may be the only ones that can impact customers. Actually, that's not true. Whatever job you do in the company has an impact, maybe indirectly, but you're doing something to help the people who are then speaking to your customers. So that we didn't start with that strategy. That wasn't on the kitchen table to begin with. That's something that has evolved over the years, 2.5 years. So that would actually be a recommendation to kind of think, you know, as your strategies or values may move, make sure that your intranet or wherever your source of truth is reflects that, so it's updated just the same. And then another part of it is climate. So what can we do for our planet? We have a huge corporate responsibility policy. As I said, there's Plan Zero. We've got the Plan Zero report. And it is all about helping our people and our customers on the journey to net zero or true net zero. And we do an awful lot of volunteering. So we've got a campaign called 1 million minutes. So it is where you can basically do anything in the company. So we've got the 3 hubs. It's up to you whether you choose to stick to one of them or pick a charity or a cause that is close to your heart, whatever it is, however much time you're doing it, you log it, and then we've got a totalizer, which is really cool. And it's one of those things that you kind of learn from your peers. So maybe you wouldn't have thought that there was something that you could do, but then you over here you see that Joanne from sales has been dog walking for the last 10 years and you never knew about it. We've got a colleague that works for Women's Aid and takes calls in a spare time, a couple of hours a week, and they're things that you don't know, and then they're very inspiring. So that is a big part of it. We don't want it to come from the top and be preachy almost. You actually learn from each other. So this should be a really inspiring place to go. Again, kitchen table is run by our people. It's people powered. And then onto that then, interaction. So we have 45 communities on the kitchen table. They are in the round table. Actually, yesterday we spoke about the power of human connection, and you find something in common. So one of them may be a badminton club. Some of them are very specific. There's for the love of pets. We've had a lot of cats shared, so maybe you would all join that one. And it is a place to talk to like-minded people. We've got, as I said, we've got home, hub and field, and it is a way to feel connected to everyone. It may be that you're not talking about your work, you're talking about an activity to do with your child during half term, but that is actually connection. And then while you're there, so actually this is happening in this part of the business, and then you see the news, or then you end up looking at another page or something and learning without actually realising. We've got a social feed. It's on our front page of the intranet. So again, that's very much the same. You interact, we learn from each other. I think it's the human thing, isn't it? And perhaps what we've lost as well over the last few years. So this is the nutritional information of our kitchen table then. So as you can see, we have a very high proportion of registered users and active users. And we have found that a lot of that is through keeping the content up to date and also making sure that it does change as our values and strategy moves along. We've focused really, really hard since COVID on making sure that our workforce feels connected. Before, it probably would have just been an office or field, like your van is your office, or the actual office is your office. Whereas now, even if you are based in one of our hubs, you may only go in 1 day a week. So it is really, really important that you are connected to each other. And I think through the power of people and talking and knowing that this is the place to go, that's the reason that we get people coming back. As you can see from our stat, I'm not going to go through the whole thing there, but just to put it into perspective there for our local channels, it's split into the volume that we get. I know that may not look like there's a lot of it on the kitchen table, but as I said, a huge part of our communication strategy is actually other forms of communication. We know email works very well. We found that 55% of our people actually prefer the information in an email. They actually prefer written content. So they drive people back to the kitchen table. So we use the weeklies, the dailies to get people there for the full read. The kitchen table is the place that holds the truth. And as far as engagement goes, so this is how we use this to constantly look at our measurement then. As you can see, we do have a high percentage of our workforce that is engaged, and we have drilled this back down to the intranet in the sense of people are learning from each other, being inspired by each other. So it actually makes you want to do the same as well. So you've been inspired by somebody, and it's much more impactful than being told to do something. We don't want to put a campaign name on it. And our biggest 3 things that we focus on, actually no, the biggest 2 that we focus on, I'll just talk about them, are, we've already spoken about Plan Zero, but the other one is belonging. So that's the name we give to our inclusion and diversity strategy, and it is absolutely the sense. Great panel discussion on it yesterday, and to us, belonging is, it doesn't matter who you love, what your religion is, what you like, what you don't like. Everyone comes to work at OVO as their authentic self. Differences are celebrated. It's great. Everyone brings something different to the table, and that's what we should encourage. As a company, we don't shy away from the questions that maybe other people would. We encourage people to ask things that they may be too afraid for, maybe, and it is absolutely the place to be who you are, do what you want, and we've got 8 networks, 8 belonging networks, all with great engagement, so much so that we are now creating sub ones for them. So for instance, we've got an agenda network, and we've recently launched a menopause network that comes off that, so they are getting a bit more niche. And again, it is only through seeing the involvement, the interaction with the 8, that we then realise, oh, actually, there's a bit more of an appetite for this or for this. And we're trying to evolve it in that sense, in the same way that we find that we've had communities and they'd requested to be set up, and they had brilliant ideas, and then all of a sudden, they aren't doing anything, they're not working anymore. So we have a conversation with the people, and it may be that they thought it was a good idea at the time, but actually they don't want to run it anymore. They don't want the responsibility. So it's always about changing. As I said, that's our belonging hub. It is a hub on the hub, as I keep saying. And we have very good views to that hub. It is something that people go to on their own. They don't need to be directed to it. They get involved. There's news feeds, community feeds. You can post your questions on there, and that's what gets people coming back to those. And as I said, asking those questions that maybe others would shy away from. And the wellbeing hub is the other one. So as we spoke about earlier, people should know where to go without having to ask. So the wellbeing hub is, I think, maybe 3rd or 4th on our list of most viewed pages on the kitchen table. So just for you to have a quick little look then. So that's our homepage. We use the banner for the big thing that's going on that you need to do. So at the moment, we're in the middle of nominations being open for our annual OVO Awards. So it actually links to the nomination form. That's not what this picture shows, don't worry. It's gone up actually this week, the awards. And then we use the 3 pictures. Again, they are the spotlights, things you need to know. They change quite regularly, but the only one that we never change is the free lunch one, because as soon as we move it, we get loads of people getting in touch and asking us where it is, and it's very annoying. And then our feed is broken then, so there's OVO News, so everyone gets this, no matter where you work. And then to bring it down, to tailor it for you, you get the My News. So for Field, for instance, they have their own channel. Our field guys, for want of a better phrase, have it tough. It's just them and they ban. And the only kit that they get is their tablet, or their phone. So by having this kitchen table on there, it's actually automatically downloaded on their phones when they get them. They immediately have a sense of belonging. Again, these are examples of some of the communities. I didn't pick the Welsh one on purpose, it just happened. And there's a little snapshot of our wellbeing hub there. I mentioned the People Leader page and our belonging hub with one of the subgroups that we've created separate pages for. So that's just a little example. So yeah, there we go. Ready to tackle your questions. Please be kind.
Come and sit here beside me, and we will go through a few questions. Okay, the top question everybody wants to know: how do you make sure that all your static content is up to date?
So it is something that we regularly review. although being honest, is something that we did let go for a little while. So we only realised how out of date it was when we started looking again. And really embarrassingly, it's always when the CEO or somebody sees something and get a little IM in the morning, which is what you don't want. And it's through failing to update it that we've realised. We get there's a notification that we get, we've set it for 6 months when content needs to be reviewed, so that we know to go in and have a little look. But we're actually in the process of, so a lot of the content, I mean, we're the comms team, right? We wear loads of different hats, don't get me wrong, but we don't know how the procurement process works, because why should we? So we've given ownership to our experts who own pages, so that they can update them themselves. We go in and have a look, don't get me wrong, because we get way off-brand things. So we do go in and have a little look, but we've given a lot of ownership back to the business, and it actually means they do it, they're engaged, they're involved, and I think that's the biggest thing. They don't feel like they're being forced to do something. It's in their hands.
Great. That feeds very nicely into the upvoted question here. How do you encourage your field teams to use it, and what benefits have they found from using it?
So it is installed on the phones when they start, so there's no getting away from it. And there's a news feed on there that we make sure is updated more than any others. They are our deskless force. They make up about a third of the organisation, so it's substantial, and that is updated regularly. So this is the news that you need to know, and almost like they have to go on there to see that information, otherwise they know something is going to not go very well. But while they are on there, then we've got the community pages so that they can interact, and I think that's where it becomes the hub then to connect them, because they're talking to somebody in Scotland that they've never met and they're based in Bristol. And yeah, so it's about, for them, treated differently to some of the other audiences, just because this works. I'm sure, as we've spoken about, deskless people are harder and may need a different strategy. So for them, it's getting the new, they go on there to see the news, the important stuff, and then hang around to see the rest.
Lovely. I really love the name, The Kitchen Table. I think maybe the best intranet name I've heard. And I really liked when you showed the stats and it said nutritional information.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you're such a comms pro. This is really good.
We do love a pun.
Okay, because OVO had people working in the field before COVID, how do you think this informed your approach to more or different forms of remote and hybrid work? Did you already have lessons learned from connecting with your field workers?
Yes, so we had the 2 companies, like I said, and only one of them, so it was OVO, actually sitting right over there. Her name is Lottie, and she adopted this for using Staffbase for OVO's field force at the time. It was something that we didn't use for our SSE field force, so it was very much this is best practice. We didn't have very good engagement with our engineers at the time. We were using different channels, not as effective, whereas we could see the benefit of this one for our field teams. So I think it was a bit of an easy win, really, to get the C-suite on board with this one. So I think we were quite lucky in the sense of 2 companies coming together. One had it nailed, one wasn't as good.
Brilliant. I'd love to know, this is me being nosy, if you had to go back and do it all again, would you do anything differently?
We probably would have set the 6 months reminder from the start for the static content. Definitely would have done that. And believe it or not, and now this feels so stupid, we didn't actually start with a site map. So our navigation bar grew and grew and grew, and it grew sideways rather than using actual menus going down. And I think when you build it, you look at the whole suite, but then you get a request to add a page, or as I said, we built the People Leader Hub, or we built in the People Leader Hub. That was a new one. They always got tagged on. We didn't actually think about where they would sit. So I think starting with a proper site map would have given us the holistic approach that we are now taking 2.5 years down the line.
Great. Okay. Somebody says your engagement and activity rates are very impressive. What are the key initiatives that helped you deliver on those?
We do a lot of campaigns where we encourage people to, as I said, belonging is a huge part of our strategy, and getting to know different, so faiths, I'll take that as an example. With Diwali, we get people to take pictures of their kitchen. It's not all of kitchen tables and food, I swear. This is a really bad example. But we get people to maybe post a picture of how they celebrate in. Some of these happen to be with food. And they are the people, that is the people-powered content that gets people excited. They have the most posts, they have the most likes. If I shared mine, maybe that would encourage you to share yours. And we do this for the volunteering opportunities as well. So I think we're all nosy. We all like seeing the people-powered stuff more than what may be going on in this team or this team, if we're honest. And yeah, getting that huge people-powered part in our comm strategy, I think that's been the difference.
Great. I think that feeds nicely into this question. You clearly put a lot of time and effort into storytelling and building a narrative to encourage and inspire your colleagues to get involved. How did you convince your leaders that it was worth investing time and money into this?
Ooh. I feel like that's $1 million one, isn't it?
Everyone's like, please, give us the recipe.
The recipe?
Yeah.
Comes person. We start with, old thing, isn't it? You start with one campaign, you see the success coming in from another one. As the stats show, our belonging and our Plan Zero stats were going up and up with our engagement scores. So it almost was as simple as using the stats and, I want to say shoving her in their faces, but a bit more gentle than that, and letting them speak for themselves. So yeah, measurement.
So you're not using AI to draft the contents for your leaders yet?
No, not yet. To be honest, that fills me with absolute terror. But there we go. I've been convinced over the last few days.
Okay, I'm going to ask one more. This is an interesting one. Who is in charge of your belonging communities?
So we have a head of inclusion and diversity. He keeps us on track in a sense of making sure that we are all doing the right thing. But actually, it isn't a separate part of what we do. So we may have the hub there, but belonging is for everyone. And the networks run themselves. So it's one of those, like our business owners own their own pages. Each network runs their own. Doesn't matter whether you are the lead of the network or not. Everyone owns it. Anyone can post. And it's very inclusive, really. It's very informal. You may go to one and it could be a really, really hard, so spoken about white privilege, for instance, on our Embrace network. And then it could be something, I say fickle on another feed, but you know, it could be something a bit lighter then. So yeah, we just let them run themselves.
Fabulous. Well, listen, thank you so much for letting us sit at your kitchen table.
Yes, always
welcome. I have really enjoyed it. I'm going to digest all the information now. I can do this all day. Thank you so much. I also think you should get a prize for most musical, beautiful accent of the day. I could listen to you all day. Please give it up for Rowena.
Thank you.